How do I know who to sell to? Hey, I'm Donnie Bovine, the CEO and founder of Success Champions Networking and author of Endless Stream of Referrals. This is Growth Mode, a podcast all about growing and scaling your business. Hanging out with me as always is Kevin Snow, the sales and automation tactician and genius. And in this episode, we're going to jump all into how do you figure out who the hell you're supposed to sell to. So, this one's kind of fun for me because growing up, well, really particularly in commercial printing, my first sale I ever made was to my own mom. I went to her, she was working at an eye doctor's office, so I knew her doctor really well. I knew everybody in the office. I kind of grew up with them as a kid. And I went to her office and asked if I could, print their business cards. Mom asked me to go get a, price on it. And when I came back, mom beat me up on price. If you can believe that. My own mom's beating me up on pricing for freaking business cards. And so I, went back, got her better pricing. And she was the first ever order I made, when I did commercial printing. And for probably the 6 months of doing commercial printing, I was going after safe clients, right? People that I felt like I could get into, get a conversation with. And it was all this small stuff. And it was a good learning experience as I went through it, but it was a little frustrating as I, kept screwing up jobs or overly demanding freaking clients. And, I felt like I spent more time in the print shop, fixing things because I didn't understand, what actually I was doing than I was actually outgrowing a business. And it was actually a senior sales rep that pulled me aside and says, "Man, I see you doing a lot of work. You tired yet?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, this shit is exhausting." He's like, "You need to start going after some bigger clientele because once you get to the bigger fish, they'll tell you what they need, and you won't have to scramble so hard to do all this work that you're doing." So it was pretty cool that somebody took me aside and told me that because I might have just kept banging my head against the wall for a while. So but once I started going after the bigger fish, things made a lot more sense. And I think for a lot of people, they have this "I want to save the world" complex. And I know when I started Success Champions, I had the same idea. Like I wanted to, save everybody and fix everybody's freaking problems. The problem is when you try and fix everybody's problems, you actually fix nobody's. So let's jump into this one, Kevin. How do people figure out who the hell they sell to?
So, do you think it's a save the world, or do you think they're just scared?
I mean, for me specifically, it was a save the world, but for most people, they're scared. And the reason I distinguish between the two because I did the scared shit early on, right, in commercial printing and all that, and that's where I was. Once I started the company, I had this complex that I could, I could help anybody, Um, and I think there is a certain industry sector, like healers, that believe that they can heal anybody. And I find this really prominent in their world. But I think for a lot of people, it's really more about they want to play in this safe lane. And that's why they say things like, if you just introduce me to them, I'll take care of the rest, right? Or if you can just get me in front of them, I'll do it. Or they say things like, "I need anybody with a heartbeat," and silly things and phrases that come out of their mouth because of, but one, because of fear, two, because they feel like if they were to get niched down, they would lose business.
Well, and I was going to say, I think that's part of it. Is they're afraid to say no
Mhm.
to potential revenue, and because that's a huge thing we see with a lot of the business owners that we work with who are in those early stages of business development. The whole idea of saying no to money coming in that'll pay bills, put food on the table, keep rent or mortgage paid is a really scary thing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And for And I think, with the entrepreneurs, it's one thing, but then when you have salespeople, where the whole idea is I need to go sell and every little bit counts, they don't have to worry. A lot of times they don't have to worry about anything after the contract signed.
Right.
So for them, is it more of a, I want to sell the right clients for the business, or I just want to sell stuff and get paid and then hope they make it to the charge back date and not have to worry about them.
Right. Going back to my commercial printing, I also had that idea of could I handle it? The little bitty clients were enough, right? They were beating the shit out of me enough that I worried that if I really got the big monster client, that I would lose all concept of time and I'd be working my ass off way harder than I wanted to work. And what's funny is when I went after the bigger clients, I actually worked less hours because they knew what the fuck they wanted.
Yeah, they've done this
Right.
before.
And I wasn't babysitting as much. I mean, there was always a couple of projects that were like, hey, we want to try something. And those became fun because now you were, figuring out things together. You became more of a partner than a vendor. So those are always fun. But I think, and I would also throw in there that some people, because they haven't really tried to sell anybody, they just don't even know where to start.
Yep.
They're like, I just want somebody to buy this because, and whatever this is. And coaches, I think, are the worst, because they're like, I just want to help somebody. I just want to pour into somebody, and you ask them, well, what can you coach on? And their answer is just, well, what's your problem? No, it doesn't work that way. Right. People never know for sure, not always know for sure what they need help with. Sometimes it's our job to, tell them what they may need help and support with. When you first started out, did you struggle figuring out your client base?
Um, yes, because I wanted to do all the CEO things and I didn't even go sell.
Mm,
So
I had that
I was
same problem.
ooh, I'm a business owner now, so I'm going to do business stuff, and make a website and a culture deck and
Dude,
marketing
I even
things
got the
and
really big,
stuff.
thick business cards because I thought they would make me look cool, right?
Yeah, I had the cool business cards. I did all that stuff, and then I was like, oh crap, I'm running out of money. I need to actually go get a client or two, and that's the exact opposite. You have to do the selling thing first because that's how you figure out who you want to work with and who is really a good client and who's not a good client. If you're not in front of people who can actually use your things, you're never going to know who you should sell to.
Yeah.
Unless you're in a really well established industry where you can just pick, like chiropractic. Are you a kids chiropractor, an animal chiropractor, or do you only work with certain types of, injuries? You can be it's easy to pick and say, here's what I want to do.
Yep.
Whereas, in your coaching or consulting or marketing, it's much more broad. And I can be doing the exact same thing as someone else and still refer business back and forth because we don't want to work with the clients each of us have.
Yeah, I love the drug dealer's model. And the drug dealer's model is first one's on me, right? In hopes that they get you fucking addicted and you want to come back and buy more and more and more and more. And I saw a post the other day. Now, I don't understand coaching certification and why you need to be certified as a fucking coach. I don't get all that. But this post was well done. I didn't see the result of it, but they put a post out that said, "Hey, I'm fixing to finish up my life coaching certification. And one of the things to become certified is I have to do 50 free sessions with people out there to be able to qualify for my certificate." And I thought, what a fucking smart way to start a coaching business, to put it out there. Hey, I'll do 50 free sessions. You get one session, 50 people, one per person, right? 50 people. And the thing I loved about that was now you get to go coach 50 individual people and you learn what the fuck you're actually doing in coaching. Right. And I think for a lot of services, you'll see this in social media marketing. They're like, hey, I just learned how to do, Facebook ads. I'm looking for 20 companies that will just pay the cost of the ad so I can get proof of concept that I actually know what I'm doing here. Or you'll see people, especially service based companies can do this the most, is the try before you buy kind of concept. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people because they're so hell bent on I've got to make money out the gate. They're in this desperation mindset. They're not willing to give away a few rounds to learn their stuff. I mean, even for sales training, my first ever sales I did, you know, I went out to my network and said, "Hey, I need 5 people to come into the training program so I can walk you through the process of what sales would look like. No cost to you. I just need to go through the process." And it was a great learning experience of how to have the right conversations.
It's funny, you're seeing that, and I'm seeing from a couple uh, coaches slash consultants, advertisements around the fastest way to grow your agency uh, is to charge for your initial meeting. I'm like, that's stupid as fuck.
Yeah.
I'm like, how, especially if you are a newer agency or new in your whatever you do. Why would I ever charge someone just to talk to me? I understand the value of my time and that whole concept, but that's how I figure out who I want to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no fucking way in hell I'm going to pay for that first conversation. If I don't know you, I don't know what the fuck you can do. I don't know your capabilities. And I don't even know if I fucking like you, let alone want to do business with you. I mean, yeah, that's ignorant. To
Yeah, and I know how you and I both sell and what our first meetings look like, and we give a ton of value. So we could easily charge a few $100s
Oh,
for it, and
without
it
even
would be
blinking
totally
twice. Yeah.
and no, and afterwards people are like, "Well, that was so worth it." But it's how do you get the people that don't know you to say, "Yeah, I want to give you money just to talk to you."
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, Unless you are Mark Cuban or, some big name that has really well established pedigree, why would anyone say, "Yeah, I'll give you money just to talk"?
Well, and I think if you go back to even where Mark Cuban started to fuck out, I mean, his first fucking couple of computer deals, I'm betting there was, hey, do me a favor here so I can figure some of
Yeah.
this shit out. Now he's got the name and brand and he can put shit out there and sell whatever he puts his name and brand to. I mean, so, I think, and I'm not saying give away the fucking farm here. A lot of it is, we'll go back to the life coaching one, you know, 50 conversations that they're offering to give away for free. They're going to figure out really quick what type of people they want to work with, what they actually want to coach, because life coaching is such a broad fucking thing. That's like when I first started being a fucking success coach. I still don't know what a fucking success coach is or what the fuck I was coaching, but when you put out this broad term, you're kind of all over the map with what you're coaching, but doing those 50 conversations allows you to get your rhythm and flow of what you can actually do. Now, flip
Yeah,
it. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I had a life coach that I knew for a while whose whole sole focus was millennial
Mm,
and helping millennials understand how to interact in the current corporate world, and then helping businesses understand, all right, so here's how your millennials act.
mm,
That's
smart.
completely different than you. And it was that super niche topic. And I'm a life coach. I help millennials cope and I help businesses cope with millennials. And that was her whole thing. But she went through a ton of different iterations where she kept niching down and figuring out, yeah, I don't want to do that stuff. That's not my thing. I don't want to do the family stuff anymore. I want to do this thing. Um, but it's because she was meeting with
Yeah,
people and having conversations. If you're not in front of people, you're never going to figure out who you need to sell to.
for sure. And I think it's easier for a product based company to figure out who to sell to than it is a service based company. If you are selling Kirby vacuums, just to go back into your old school world, you're going to walk into people of a little bit more wealth, that can afford a $10 billion fucking vacuum.
Eh,
You actually go into the fucking broke people and selling them a fucking $10 billion vacuum.
it was only like $2,000.
Dude, there is no reason to have a $2,000 fucking vacuum in your house.
But it's the last one you're ever going to freaking own.
My ass. They don't make shit
My
like they used to.
my my mom still has the same Kirby I sold her back when I was
Damn, you
starting the
sold your
Kirby
own
thing.
mother a $2,000 vacuum?
Yeah, my grandma. Oh, the funny thing is, my grandma wouldn't meet with me. She's like, I'm not. She was like, I'm not going to spend $2,000 for a vacuum. I'm like, fine, grandma. Like 2 years after I stopped selling it, I was like in the normal job world. I went over and I'm like, Grandma, you have a Kirby. What? What the hell?
She bought one, but wouldn't even buy one from you. That's awesome.
Well, she's like, well, he was really nice. I'm like, Grandma, I'm really nice, and I'm related to you.
Guys, if that doesn't sum up sales sometimes, when your own grandma goes around your back and freaking buys from somebody else, that's maybe your grandma just didn't like you. I mean, there's that. But I do think it's easier for products to figure out than service, mainly because most products has a kind of a built-in end user. And I think, if you look at a lot of software and a lot of technology, sometimes you're surprised by who actually buys your stuff. Because you may have one target, one industry in mind, and then all of a sudden another industry comes out of the woodworks and is like, "Wow, we could actually use this over here." And you're like, "Shit, I
Yep.
wasn't even thinking about that direction," and now you're doing it over here.
Well, that's what happens a lot with the service based industries. You have a really specific problem you use, like, I can fix this. And these are the people that have this problem. And like when I started Time on Target, the revamp after the deployment, my whole focus was, tech firms that are scaling and the owner's a geek and doesn't actually understand how sales works and needs help actually scaling
Mm.
that side of their business. I'm like, I can fix that. Here's a process. But then you find, well, all right, so there's these other industries that have the same freaking issue, that the people that started weren't salespeople. And then you start thinking, have to go through the whole concept of, all right, well, do I actually want to work with these people? Yes, they can give me money, but are these my peeps?
Right.
Or do I not want, or is this going to just feel gross and I'm going to hate my life for doing it? So
Yeah, and this is why I also think, workshops are so badass early on. Because with a workshop, you can just come up with a badass title and you go teach and you invite a bunch of variety of people to it. And sometimes you're shocked by who raises their hand and says, I want more information. And I know, even going back to sales training, we did this often. Is I would advertise an upcoming workshop through all the local PR and newspapers and some social media stuff, and not a lot. And the industries we ended up training, I would have never even thought about targeting, but they came to a workshop, and we did it was a water bottle manufacturing company, right? It's all they produced was water, was not water bottles, plastic bottles. It's all they produced was plastic bottles. I would have never in a million years ever thought about cold calling a freaking plastic bottle company to sell them their stuff. It just wasn't a thing. But they showed up to one of our workshops off of one of our advertisings. So I think for some people, I mean, that's a great way to figure it out, is offer up a couple of free, workshops that teach, give advice. And I mean, it's what we're doing a lot for Success Champions Networking. We do the first workshop, first Friday of every month. And that's how we've launched most of Canada, is based off of those workshops and the people that have come through those. And I think that's a huge bonus into figuring out who you're going to sell to, is to go teach your stuff and see who the hell is going to show up to it. Yeah.
well, and it's also a great way to disqualify people, because you're going to have people show up that go to through the workshop that are
Yeah.
DIYers
Yeah.
and want to do it themselves. And you're like, sweet, now I know you're a DIYer. I don't have to worry about you. And I'm not going to spend any time with you. And we'll keep sending you stuff. And once you break everything and now you need us to come fix it, awesome, we'll do that.
Right.
But it's a really good idea to figure out, who is actual, who's kicking tires and who's actually looking to do stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hadn't even thought about that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, because a lot of those people are just showing up. They're already there with the mindset of, I'm going to learn how to do this myself. And man, when they're in that zone, you don't want to be anywhere near them. Let them take away all the information and just go on. And I think that's what hurts a lot of people trying to figure out who they're trying to sell to is they're so desperate for that fucking conversation and sale that if somebody shows an inkling of interest, like, there's some people that would do that free workshop and they would believe that everybody that showed up for that workshop is a prime prospect to be a client of theirs, right? Because that desperation mindset. So I love looking at
Yep.
it from the angle of let me see if I can get them out of my system too and clean house, figure out who I should really be talking to.
And I think the other thing that you have to look at when you're trying to figure out who you should sell to is who do you actually enjoy working
Yeah.
with? Just because someone has a problem that you can solve doesn't mean that they have to be one of your targets. You may have found out that manufacturing was a great prospect for sales training, but if you didn't enjoy that working with those clients and you weren't getting the outcomes you wanted because of personalities and whatnot, you might say, "Yep, totally, they're awesome. We could make money there, but I'm not going to because I'm going to hate my life. I'm going to
Right.
focus over here."
Yeah, prime example is when I was on a board for the Greater Fort Worth Builders Association here in Fort Worth. One of the clients I picked up was an engineering firm, and they invited me
Oh,
out.
that had to go awesome
Oh my
for you.
god, dude. 30 plus some odd engineers, and I was coming in to do a 2-hour workshop to see if they could, they were giving me a trial run, but they didn't understand that I was giving them a trial run because I wasn't sure I could do this. And by God, that 2-hour workshop's all I ever did. It was hard. I mean, when you have
Mm.
such black and white analytical thinkers, it's very, very hard for a guy like me to teach because everything has to be logical in nature. And they have to completely understand it before they'll make a move. Where most of your, other non analytical people are like, especially your high D's and I's, are like, all right, let me go fucking try it. Right? Quit talking. Let me try it. Where the analyticals are like, but why in the third second would you say this? And then in the 35th second, would you say that? And like, shut the fuck up. So it's a really cool way to kind of break through the BS of who you want to be working with. So I think in this one, guys, a couple of the really badass takeaways is try the drug dealers model, man. Freaking, give some of your shit away until enough people show up that you can figure out who you actually want to work with. Do some free workshops and put it out there and see who shows up and use it to qualify and disqualify your people. And, you know, reach out to your friends and family and see who they might know that'll just give you a shot to come in and figure things out. And then get really focused on who you enjoy working with, who you want to work with, and who you think will continue doing business with you in the future. And I think it will dial you right in. And as always, guys, if you got any tips, tricks, any value out of this episode, please leave us a 5-star review. Make sure you're subscribed and share this off with one friend. It means everything to us. And as always, love you, mean it. See you, bye.